Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Yes, we'll talk about what transpired yesterday and probably before yesterday, some of the things that may have happened behind the scenes or explains what you may have seen. We've got two people joining us this morning to shed some light on those matters. Hannatu Musawa, Secretary, Presidential Primary Screening Committee, and also Co-Secretary, Media and Publicity Committee of the Presidential Primary Convention. We also have sitting beside her Honorable Chris Okabe, who's a former secretary, Oredo Local Government Council, the one-time chairman, Petroleum Monitoring Committee, PMC, Edo State. Thank you very much for coming. Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Well, let me start with you, Hannatu. Having seen the way the entire development played out, give us your impression of what you thought of the whole process.
Honestly, I can say as a party member, I'm extremely proud of the way APC has conducted itself. Having 23 aspirants going into the convention, of course, there was trepidation and a great foreboding as to what would emanate from that, and maybe the fallout and that would and the disenfranchisement, the possible disenfranchisement that would happen. And you know, there were thoughts that there would be an imposition of a candidate. But I think what APC did on Tuesday and Wednesday was to display a high level of democracy, a free and fair process where every single aspirant was given the same level playing field. And I think APC really did deliver. And I think the opposition has a lot to be nervous about.
Honorable Koba, how did you see it?
It was a merry day for APC, as against the insinuations out there before the process and before our primaries that APC was going to implode after that exercise. Like what you could see yesterday, the Secretary of that screening panel has just mentioned, it was a very, very, very rigorous process. 23 aspirants, prone to 13. It wasn't easy, and that could have been enough for some persons to even say they're leaving the party because, okay, they couldn't make it. But as a party of inclusiveness, they give room for every 23 aspirants on the day of that primaries, that event yesterday, or day before yesterday, to still share their thoughts with the Nigerian people. And that was one thing that was really exciting to me, that at least they give every one of them a sense of belonging to tell Nigerians what they would have loved to do.
Well, Hannatu, what was the story that made the rounds about some candidates having been disqualified, the number pruned to 10, and then possible 5 and 2? What was that all about? Didn't that happen?
No, that never did happen. I was the secretary of the Presidential Primary Screening Committee, and what we did a very rigorous exercise where we had an opportunity to interact with every single one of these aspirants. And the exercise was twofold, whereby the first part of the exercise was every single aspirant was asked the same questions based on constitutional requirements, electoral act requirements, and the guidelines of the party. And every single aspirant passed that. And then the second part of the exercise, we're going into an election. The whole purpose of this process is actually to win the election. So no sentiment was brought in. So what we did was, based on all the responses that we got from every aspirant, we looked at it and looked to see who were the strongest candidates to face a very formidable opposition in the name of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. And we assessed them based on that. And what we did was to advise the party, saying that every single aspirant has passed and had been cleared by our panel. But at the same time, we advise and recommend that these 13 were the strongest to go into the election as a way to whittle down the number, because we knew that going into an election with 23 members was just not advisable. So, like I said, every single member was cleared by the panel. I know that the media reported that some had been disqualified, but nobody had been disqualified. And so we recommended it. And of course, the party didn't have to take that as sacrosanct. It was just an advice by our way. And I think even with the governors, when they tried to prune it down to 5, it was again an advice that they wanted to give the president, just as a way to be able to handle the whole process easier.
So was there some sort of grading
No, there was no grading. Like I said, we did go through constitutional requirements, electoral act requirements, and the constitution of the party and the guidelines. And then we, as a panel, also came up with certain questions, with certain benchmarks that we thought was important to ask the aspirants, such as when you declared, how many states have you visited? What is your policy framework for the party? So it wasn't a grade mark, it was just from our interactions, what we thought was by way of advice as to who the strongest aspirants were going into the convention.
Well, finally, you decided to go. I do not know why it was that you thought that, 23 aspirants were a little too many to be on the ballot or, for people to vote for. Because, I mean, even INEC has about 78 parties on its presidential ballot. It's tried to prune it down, though, but sometimes it is not very successful. But let me ask you, Mr. Chris Okaibe, what you make of the entire process, the horse trading that went on behind the scenes. We were not privy to it. I do not know, because you were a VVIP at that event, so I do not know if you were privy to some of it. But tell us how it played out in a state like yours, where the governor has now ported to the PDP, and you're left without a governor. Would I say without an actual leader in Edo State?
Yeah, point of correction. I must tell you, Maokwe. In every society, in every political party, and even in a community, they are leaders.
Indeed.
They are community heads. And I always try to correct some perceptions. The constitution of our party says, where there is no governor, the most high-ranking political office holders become the leader of the party. In Edo today, you cannot take it away. Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole is immediate past governor of Edo State. He stands in to be the leader of the party in Edo State. So,
there's no contest to that now.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you see, sometimes people will easily get carried away. And I always try to remind us, I must first of all thank our northern governors. The smiles over all of us today is arising from the fact that the northern governors came out from the sincerity of their heart that we must keep this country together. And in keeping this country together, we must work with the marriage of convenience we had politically to say that, okay, we must try to always give, take.
And that was a big deal.
It was.
It was a big deal for your party.
Oh, yes, it was.
If they hadn't taken that decision, what effect do you think it would have had? I know you haven't answered
that. Of course, that would have further, there's so much tension in the country today. Mm-hmm. Let's not get it wrong. There's so much tension in the country. From our decision yesterday, I can tell you, we are 40% already ahead of PDP. I can say that with all confidence.
All parties say that.
40% ahead of PDP.
Even before our campaigns, yeah, because they've taken their candidate from the north, and they know within their own system, and I'm sure Obasanjo also mentioned it in one of his interviews, that there was a conversation, and that conversation still stands, that marriage of convenience is still valid. To say that we must rotate power between the north and the south. Mm.
They have their own.
Yes, so that's why I said.
Yes,
whatever their reasons are.
Yes.
As a party, everybody must give them the room for fair play. That's what the politics of Nigeria. I tell everyone who cares to listen, politics have become very dynamic. In Adamawa today, we have a female governorship candidate. Who said that would have been possible? Whereas some people said a woman can never be a governor in Nigeria. A woman can never be a president.
She is not yet the governor.
They know what I'm saying. She's already a candidate.
Yes. We'll see if your party will do what it can to deliver her. So the onus is on your party to make sure you deliver.
To make sure we deliver her. And of course, let me tell you, she has delivered herself, because now the lesson for every politician to learn, you cannot be an Abuja politician when you do not have your home base.
So what were the lessons there then for the chairman in terms of that announcement that was made about Senate President?
The lesson to have learned. Now, I'm sure you also saw another version where the national chairman said, show me the video where I made that pronouncement. So is your word against his own?
Oh, they can say that now.
That's why we all must be careful what we listen to out there in the social media. And I thank you guys who belong to the fortune of the estate, because you have a way of balancing your stories so that nobody takes you to court tomorrow. No, this information came out from your desk and I'm taking you to court. So that's why you try to balance your information. But I think from what Mike said, We all came out from Edo. All the Edo delegates came out into Abuja with the mindset that party is supreme. And whatever the party decides is where we're going to go. Because everybody cannot be a pilot in an aircraft that is taking us from Abuja to Lagos.
You say, whatever the party says. What did the party say?
The party...
What did the party say? Because there was a lot of confusion up to the very last minute.
The one I should expect you to take valid
yes.
is the outcome of what you saw on Tuesday, which is all the aspirants were given a fair play.
Okay.
Can I just offer to clear up this notion that the chairman made a pronouncement? There was no pronouncement or official declaration to him that was released based on what the chairman said regarding the Senate president. And even if something had been said in a private meeting, we don't know the context in which it was said. I mean, I remember when we sat for the panel, there was stories that we had screened in secret, the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. That never happened.
Exactly.
And then there were stories that certain aspirants had been
anointed.
Had been disqualified. That never happened. As far as I know, the chairman never made any pronouncement regarding Ahmed Lawan or any anointed candidate. And like I said, if something had been said in a private capacity, we don't know the context in which it was said. So I would urge everyone to take with a grain of salt that the chairman had made any attempt to anoint or force certain candidates on the party. That was not an official position that was taken.
But it was official that the party, Kogi State Governor, voiced out saying, listen, they can't try to scheme me out of all of this, because if I didn't get any communication that I've been disqualified, why are they telling us not to contest, whether or not they say they wanted to go to the south?
I think the Kogi governor was well within his rights. At the point that the Kogi governor went ahead and bought the form of expression of interest for 100 million naira, nobody communicated to him at that point that he was not eligible because he did not come from the southern part of the country. So I think he was well within his rights to come out and make that protest, even though the governors maybe made whatever decision they made based on what they felt was the mood of the nation, and maybe in anticipation that there would be a contradictory move against what the mood of the nation was. But I think certainly the Kogi governor, again, was within his rights to make that protest.
All right, my colleagues in Lagos, I've got questions for you both.
This one is for you. Having sat in that panel, operated the way it went and everything, at the end of the day, it's all about governance. It's all about having impact on Nigerians. So the question then would be, how significantly did the APC manifesto comb deliverables or promises of the contestants play in the screening process? I ask that because at the end of the day, everyone will be expecting that whoever, of course, in this case, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu has, come up as your party's candidate. What are the promises, or rather intentions or plans, and how significantly did that play in the choice or in the screening process, that threw up the contestants that were fielded at the convention?
The aspect of the party manifesto was very pertinent to the exercise that we held in the screening committee. And one of the main questions that was, one of the main guidelines that was given to us from the party was whether the contestants were conversant with the present party manifesto. One of the guidelines, one of the additions that we made as a panel was to see what policy framework or manifesto each aspirant had that would add towards the party manifesto here. I think I will not be able to articulate to you what the every single aspirant, or not even every single aspirant, now is Asiwaju, alleged Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, because he's now the flag bearer of the party. I think it is now left up, it has to be left up to him to be able to express and articulate his own policy framework and manifesto, whether he's going to go ahead and add to what has already been put in place by the party, and then we want to see what he brings on board as well. So I will not be able to articulate to you what he wants to do. We expect that he will improve on what has already been done.
Well, one of the reasons for this question is also part of what the president said, that the party would be supreme. Party supremacy is going to play a heavy role this time around after 2023. I ask that because, especially concerning the party manifesto, because that's supposed to be the blueprint upon which the party would run. So question then is, how significant was that, and how significantly will the party monitor, if at all, the progress the candidate would make if he becomes president of Nigeria? Otherwise, all of the efforts made to the screening and all would be, okay, you can do it, go ahead and do it, and there'll be no monitoring.
Yes, well, of course, the party manifesto is very important, but whoever, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, when he becomes president by the grace of God, will not be, even though the party is supreme, he will not be a slave to the party. Of course, as the head of government, he will have an opportunity to make any adjustments that he thinks is necessary. The party manifesto was couched at a certain time, and times have evolved. Things change over time. So obviously, whatever it is in the party manifesto that was drawn up back in 2015 has to be developed and has to evolve. And I guess Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will sit down with a credible team and be able to look at that manifesto, to be able to examine it and to see whether it is all right as of now to respond to the crisis and the issues that come up today. So definitely it has to develop, and he will not be a slave to what the party says, even though the party is supreme. But I believe that he will work in tandem, hand in hand with the party, in order to give the Nigerians the deliverables that they require and that they deserve.
Thank you, Madam Hannatu. And this question would have been for you, but since you both belong to the same party as well as Mr. Okaben, I'll take this to Mr. Okaben. Particularly because it was Madam Hannatu that referenced, calls about the party set for implosion because of the horse trading and the drama that preceded the primaries. But isn't it in fact the case that the party was processing all of this, which led to different statements emanating from the presidency? And if indeed there was no cause for consensus, why would the president have said that he had anointed no one? And was it in fact the reason that informed the very long delay before the primaries began? So was the APC listening to permutations about what could happen if it did not toe the democratic line in choosing its flag bearer?
Yeah, thank you, my sister. One thing I know, and I'm very, very sure about, is the party and the president, they cannot work at alternative directions. They know very well that we're going into a very tense election, and we must get it right for us to be able to remain in power. And for any right-thinking APC member, what we all need at this point in time is to get more united. Even after this primaries yesterday, now that we have a flag bearer, what is important is immediately for the national chairman to set up a reconciliatory structure and committee that must bring all the aspirants together and get everybody on board. So whatever, governance is not run by speculations, it's not run by propaganda. Whatever was happening out there, we have our own party internal mechanism, for which we can bring ourselves together, those who are going astray, call everybody together to come to understand that everybody cannot be the candidate at the same time. So if it was easy for us to say, okay, everybody step down, but what APC has done, it is one of the ingredients of democracy that can give a sense of belonging to anyone. And that we have done. Give everybody a fair playing ground to exercise your right. And that everybody have done. If you had said, no, you, all of you, done your tools, there's a person going. Of course, this person becomes upset that he wasn't given a right to convince his people to vote for him. Everybody had an opportunity to convince their delegates to vote for me and not to vote for me. And from the results yesterday, I'm sure everyone is happy.
That's the point I'm about to make now. Are you sure, confident that everyone is happy? You know, everyone remembers that very big rhetorical question that Chief Ogbonnaya Ono asked when he made his own presentation by asking, where is the justice? So is everyone happy, all the aspirants happy, in the light of Section 84(9) of the Electoral Act that the party must fulfill in presenting its flag bearer?
Now that you spoke about Section 84(9), I think APC has fulfilled every obligation of that section. I'm confident to say that now. Because the section says, where there is a consensus, all the aspirants must put in writing their withdrawal. In this case, we did not arrive at a consensus. So the essence of writing was no longer necessary. What Ogbonnaya Ono said, I think he was talking about equity and justice, that why don't they zone it to the southeast? It was zoned to the south, and now opportunities were given to anybody in the south to contest. Anybody in the south to contest. But I dare to ask today, we had delegates from the southeast. I should naturally have expected to at least stand by their zone and do also a horse trading in the field, appealing to the conscience of the Southwest and the South-South to support them to produce their candidate. Charity begins at home. Emeka Wanjuba is from Imo. How many votes did he get? There were delegates from Imo.
Did he contest?
Of course he contested.
No, he said he quit.
We did not receive that letter until... We didn't receive. I'm not sure the party received the letter, because if not, his name would not have been mentioned in the podium. I remember that his name was called 3 times for him to speak to his people, and he was nowhere to be found. So for me, in politics, there's no room for cowardice. You must stand up to the game, because that's why it's called politics. That's why it's called politics. Whatever you know, that capacity for which you said you bought that 400 million, I salute the courage of those who saw it through. Jack Tenrich and all others. Even there are some people who naturally knew they cannot win, but there was room for trying.
It's quite interesting, really, because...
Can I just on that point, it would be foolhardy for any of us to think that there were not people who feel disenfranchised this morning, despite the fact that the process was, to most people's opinion, free, fair and transparent. People put a lot of energy, time, effort into certain objective, and when you don't get that objective, as a human being, you're bound to be disappointed. So definitely there will be people that will be disappointed. There's no doubt about that. But the party knows this and has put in mechanisms in place that will be able to handle that. And I think even from yesterday, that has been put into process, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure that every single candidate stays in the party. Every single one of these aspirants is of value to the APC, and we are not ready to lose not even one of them.
Well, let me come in now. I'm still staying with you. I know parties essentially want to win elections, so they'll do all they can just so they can win the elections. But I'd like to know, in all of this, the build-up to the primaries itself, to what extent is your party factoring in the mood of the nation? I know you've talked about the mood of the nation as well, but more importantly, to manage that diversity we have as a nation. As you know well, Nigeria is not just multi-ethnic, but multi-religious as well. Yes, we've seen the northern governor saying, we think it should go to the south. And for a lot of people, that was some good move. But don't forget that there's also the religious angle to this one. And a lot of people will be looking at the first, or at least the past 7 now going to 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, and there will naturally be projections for the next 8 years saying, well, because we're multi-ethnic, because we're multi-religious, this is where it should go. So to what extent is your party factoring in that such that you can better manage the diversity in Nigeria?
I think what our party has displayed yesterday is the fact that they are ready to take in the mood of the nation. And of course, there's this issue of the religious aspect as well. And of course, the party is going to take that into consideration as well. But even though now I think it's too early to make any conjecture as to where the party is going to go with that. But I know within all the considerations, there's going to be a very, very important and nuanced conversation as to what the party decides, and even when it decides what it eventually does decide, to see how we can manage any fallout that may come from that. I think most definitely what Nigerians can expect from APC going into this election is trying to take every single Nigerian along. And I would want to also align myself with, at this point, with Dr. Obanaya Onu, to say that definitely the Southeast has to be really taken along. I do think that there's an importance for the party to ensure that the Southeast feels that it's an important part of Nigeria. And that is a very big consideration that I'm very much aware that not only the party, but the aspirant that has emerged is really going to take into consideration. And on the religious aspect, it's going to take that into consideration. But I would also want to tell Nigerians that at the end of the day, it's very important for us to win. We need to win an election, and that has to be the underlying factor on any decision that is made moving forward.
And that's really understandable. But the question still remains, at what cost? Really, that victory, that winning, at what cost? Will it be at the cost of, that managing the diversity, the unity of Nigeria, or at least keeping Nigeria one? But it's interesting you actually say that your party is considering that. So are you saying maybe we'll see a vice presidential slot for the Southeast, maybe?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure about that, because now that you're talking about, now that we have a Southwest president, then it's only natural that the vice president is going to emanate somewhere from the north. So I'm not sure what Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, together with the party, is going to decide on that. But I'm sure that at some point, every single region of Nigeria will be taken into consideration and to be brought on board. At the end of the day, it's only one person that's going to emerge as the vice presidential candidate, and that person has to come from somewhere. And wherever that person comes from is going to be something that will be free and fair to every single Nigerian. But at the end of the day, every single region will be taken along in the next administration, God willing.
But is it really natural that the vice president comes from the north? Because as we have seen now, your party may have gone with the south, move to have a presidential candidate, but the religious aspects, for example, your party didn't go with it. So it would seem we're throwing this open and saying, let's just have competent people rule. So really, must your vice president come from the north?
But you can't say that the religious aspect, we didn't go with it, because the party decided to, or rather the delegates decided to vote for a candidate from the south of Nigeria. And in the south of Nigeria, you have Muslims and Christians. You have non-Muslims and non-Christians. And every single one of these people qualify because they came from the south of Nigeria. So in that aspect, I think the religious aspect was not brought into fray. It was only whether the candidate was going to come from the north and the south, and that was what the delegates had decided at the end of the day. But going, like I said, for the vice presidential slot, I think it's too early for us to make conjectures as to whether it's going to be a Muslim or a Christian. The vice president is going to have to be something. So I think the party is going to sit down and look at what is primarily in the best interest of the nation, and then secondarily what is going to make us get that victory 2023.
And just a quick follow-up to that. Is the APC going to wait for the PDP to emerge with its own vice presidential candidate? And if indeed the vice presidential candidate of the PDP turns out to be someone from the Southeast, how will that inform your own choice?
I will follow as a party member if that is what the flag bearer together with the party has decided. I would want to believe that they have come to that conclusion in wisdom, in great wisdom, and I will support the party 100%. And I'm sure most of the members of the party will also give that support to the party and to the flag bearer.
Well, the events of the week preceding the party's primaries were quite telling. And I mean, you've spoken about how people will still feel hard done by, even though the process was very transparent. Well, Honourable, this question is for you. First and foremost, do you think that when Asiwaju won his ticket, do you think that his speech was reconciliatory enough to start healing the cracks that could have emerged as a result of the events leading up to the presidential primaries of your party?
Yeah, the process of healing, the foundation, rather, process of the healing begins from where he commended all the aspirants who contested with him, because it was not a gift. They all went to the ballot, and like he said, he appreciates them because they coming on the field, coming on the ballot with him, made him stronger, it humbled him. And that word underlined that he feels very humbled by the fact that, yes, we have courageous and brave men. Because we all understand that a lot of people would have, ran away to say, Siwaju, we can't engage on a battle with Siwaju. So I think when immediately he was handed that, before he was handed the flag in his acceptance speech, he was very clear that he commends all those, his co-aspirants. He
did.
Yes.
But except one of them, the Senate president, when he told him that, you're going to lick your wounds.
Was that reconciliatory?
When he said to the Senate president, whatever he said to the Senate president, I'm sure by now you both know, like we always call him, Baba. Baba cracks a lot of jokes.
Oh, that was a joke?
You cannot take it, don't take it to heart. He didn't mean that. Because I'm sure after that, when they left, our party is united. When they left the Eagle Square, they were still together in the evening. And of course, are you going to take very seriously when Asiwaju said, Mr. President, I will punish you today? So he was in a happy mood.
Well, we are journalists, you're a politician.
So he was in the happiest mood. And the president understood. And he said, no, if you noticed from your clip, he and the president kept cracking that joke. So I say you stayed very long there. You enjoyed it. And so they were both cracking joke. You never stopped this. So
yes, so maybe that was a joke. And maybe now there will be talk as to, whether, they are now on perfect terms. Mm-hmm. But if you look at his outburst in Abeokuta, that was a man on a warpath who felt that something was about to be taken away from him and he wasn't going to let it slip out of his hands easily. So he was suddenly on the offensive. Some people have taken offense to that. The presidency released a statement to that effect, let's not forget. So there will be questions as to whether those undertones have been well taken care of for your party to be able to move ahead.
I will not. And this time around, I don't want to pretend about this because we are talking in front of a national television. I respected one of the channels at that matter. That outburst, I will even do worse if I were him, if I was wearing his shoes.
Why?
For obvious reasons. Whatever the outburst was, we must be careful of the kind of rumors we peddle out there. If a man was jetting out on an aircraft to go and talk to delegates, and someone probably sent him a message that I think they already have an anointed candidate. And the man says, you can't be serious. Forget about that and don't discuss it. And somebody said again, is telling him again that I'm sure this exercise is in futility.
Even though you told me, show me the video. So why couldn't he show me the video before he made the outburst?
Whatever the outburst is, that's why I told you. In politics, the end result of the outburst now is that we have a candidate.
But Hannah, was it true? Okay. Is there any truth to, you could add this to that, your thoughts as well. Is there any truth in the fact, in what was said? Because if he made that outburst, he must have taken it seriously that, wait a minute, Are they trying to skim me out of all of this?
Well, perhaps, you know, they say from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And I think whatever Asiwaju said was something that emanated from his heart. He was very emotional when he said that. You have to remember, this is a man that has put in decades into this process. He has done a lot of work in terms of trying to build a network and has put his all into what he couches as his ambition.
But that suggests that that kind of thing did actually happen.
It may have.
Because
it
he's
may
got
have
a lot
because
more
it's
information.
politics.
Yeah.
It may have because it's politics. So people are bound to have their favorite candidates and stuff like that. And maybe there's something that may have happened that he felt he was going to be outdone by. He spoke from a place of emotion. But I think that is not really something that is going to stop us. We have to move on from there. Because at this point, our objective is now to win the 2023 election. So I think even if there is some disenfranchisement or some disappointment from the point of the flag bearer himself, we have to move on from there. And we have to be able to take along all these other people that we may have felt have done us wrong. At this point, we have to be a house united. So I think... yes, he may have, it was emotional. I think he's an emotional kind of person and he's put in a lot of work into this in his aspiration. So I think he has every right to express himself in the way that he felt.
And Chamberlain, just to add to what my sister said, she mentioned something now. The man has put in so much. I am proud to say none of us can boast or could have boasted, including the Senate president, of saying we have a party or a platform with which we're able to exercise our potentials, if this man did not risk his all for this party.
But I also think every single, he has risked his all for the party, but I think every single member, every single aspirant, despite how long they've been committed to the journey, has also brought something on board and is of value moving forward. So.
All right, we'll have to thank you both. Hannatu Musa Musawa, Secretary, Presidential Primary Screening Committee and Co-Secretary, Media and Publicity Committee of the APC, and as well as Honorable Chris Okebe, former Secretary, Oredo Local Government.
Honorable Member at the State House of Assembly. Is okay.
Wait. Of the what? Is it the 12 or the 10?
No, the 14.
The 14.
Don't forget,
I'm sure you're optimistic
I'm
now.
a two-time member.
I'm sure you'll be optimistic now that you have a flag bearer. That something possible may happen. That's why you're grinning from ear to ear.
Can I just say very quickly, Maupe, you are such an inspiration to women all over the country. You've done a great, you've done so well. And every single woman is so, so proud of you. You have opened doors and you're kind of breaking the glass ceiling. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for
not only journalism, but...
And I must commend you also, Chamberlain.
And
You'll be making the men proud.
Well, thank you both for coming on. We will be back in a moment. Don't go away.